Welcome to the Steven Cimino Says Boom podcast, issue number 13.
Boom!
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to issue number 13 of the Steven Cimino Says Boom podcast. I'm your host, John Cimino, with my co-host, Steve Says Boom. And down below us, Otto, always coming from the grotto, 3 men in a basement. Otto, what do we need to do?
We need to tell everybody, hey guys, well, first and foremost, thank you guys. 13 episodes. We made it that far, and we're still on the web, so that's amazing. But as always, like you guys, comment, share these videos, subscribe to this channel. This is true comic book history for you, and very much on behalf of the Steven Cimino Says Boom podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Do all those things so you know when these notifications pop up.
All right. Now, listen, in issue number 1, we gave people a little background, Steve, of, what we do and why we got into this field. I was thinking, let's do a little something extra. Well, I want to give people out there a fun episode of our top 5 superheroes ever of all time. All time. Now, like I said, we talk about the stories, we talk about the comics, we talk about the creators, but let's see what we like. And Otto, obviously you're included in this one. I want to compare, how we compare. Let's see, and who's going to get some boos, who's going to get some yays. Going to be, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared of Otto's because there's a lot of 90s. I don't want Prophet. I don't want Young Blood.
Otto would never do that.
No.
I hope.
Hey, the fanboy, the fanboy in me comes out. So.
Yeah, he would never do Shadowhawk.
No.
Okay.
Right, I wouldn't.
Let's define.
Or Dakota North, for that matter.
Okay, let's define first what's a superhero. Now, I believe it's a person that goes above and beyond the call of duty. Others people think that they need to have a superpower. First off, Steve, what do you think? Do they need a superpower, or do they just can do these heroic things regardless?
I think, I think you can be heroic without the powers. You can have your skill set. Like, let's just say that I like Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye isn't super strong. He doesn't have lasers coming out of his eyes. He can just fire. He can shoot arrows. Okay? So, technically, he's not really a superhero. He's just a regular guy that can fire arrows. But in the general consensus in world, he's one of the superheroes. He's one of the Avengers.
In Batman, for instance, too, he's got all these gadgets and all this stuff. But I also think it's somebody that inspires somebody, inspires the world, like a Captain America. Otto, what do you think? How do you define a superhero?
Superpower or not if it's your cause, and if you feel your cause is righteous, then go ahead. You know what I mean? Whether you're a superhero at a hospital or whether you're a superhero, combing the streets of Hell's Kitchen, it's as long as you believe that your cause is noble and you're doing the right thing, not like the Punisher per se, but I think superheroes are it's very nebulous, but of course, as long as your cause is true and tried, then so be it. So
I hope, Otto, that's the last time that you use the P word on this show.
All right. So how we're gonna do this is we're gonna go 5 to our 5th to our best. Number 1, we'll start with Steve, then we'll go Otto, then we'll go me, and we'll describe, our character each time. So, Steve, you go first.
All right. It's interesting that you started off with trying to quantify what a superhero is. My first character spends the limits, is like, what is he? He's an anomaly. Yes. Warlock.
Number 5.
Okay. And I particularly love, the Jim Starlin Warlock. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one Warlock, and that's the Warlock that's written by Jim Starlin. And, it has a glorious, at least 35-year history of magnificence, beginning with those massive epics, back in the 70s, the Avengers Annual, the Marvel 2-in-1, his Strange Tales, the first appearance of the Magus, and then, of course, what most of our fellow watchers will know is the Infinity Gauntlet, the stuff that was in the Silver Surfer, and that there solidified for me his placing for me as top 5. Number 5.
So that's number 5. Oh, and I also love that appearance in Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man. What was that, like number 55? Remember that? He appears with the one when Spider-Man's floating in space?
Yes, that's with the gardener.
The gardener, that's right. Okay, Otto, number 5. Who's yours? Come on.
All right. Well, we wouldn't have an Otto placement an Otto showing if we didn't have some mutants. All right. So I did this and I picked out one of my favorite panels ever, and that goes to my redheaded crush, Jean Grey. Okay.
Wow.
This panel just, Jean Grey, but whether she was Marvel Girl, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, she was gifted with these powers, and you never knew what was going to happen with her, and she was just an amazing character. And this by far is one of my favorite pictures of all time. And it says, "Hear me, X-Men, I am fire, I am life incarnate, I am Phoenix." And just the Dave Cockrum of this is just, and this begins, this goes through X-Men 137, so 101 to 137, Phoenix to Dark Phoenix.
And I love the shawl. I love her shawl too. That's a great costume.
That's definitely a Cockrum thing, that shawl.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
for sure. Yep. Yep, absolutely. And then
good
just the
pick,
hair,
Otto.
the image, so that's my 5. All right.
No, that's a good pick. And Jean Grey's a strong character. I think that's a character that girls should aspire to, because
Sure.
it's not, she was always awesome. It's not like today's girls shove down your throat, but feminism. That was awesome. That's a great.
Obviously, going out into space and destroying a whole race is a wonderful thing.
She was possessed. Okay, my number 5 is kind of my top 5 will always move around. It's kind of like where I am at the moment, this side of the bed or this side of the bed. But right now, I have to admit, I was always fascinated by, I know this, he was in comics, but he was in a cartoon first, Roger T. Race Bannon from Johnny Quest. I loved him because now from the 1964 to the 1965 cartoon, he was so awesome. Like, he was the bodyguard of Johnny Quest and Haji, but he was always well equipped. He was like the first MacGyver. I loved him, and
he was like a man's man.
What? Oh my God, man's man. He was based after the actor Jeff Chandler. That was he born in 1918 and he died in 1961. But that's who he was based after. But what made him so awesome? I don't know if anybody's ever seen those first Johnny Quest cartoons, because they're so badass. And he used to kill people left and right in that cartoon before sponsors got in there but he protected Johnny Quest and Dr. Benton Quest like you wouldn't believe. And he could always get out of a situation, and he looked so cool. I just fell in love with him. And I wasn't a big Johnny Quest fan, but I loved it for Race Bannon because, like I said, he knew all the martial arts. He was just so compact and so cool. He can take out the Punisher. That's what I say. He go above and beyond he was just so cool doing it too. I loved him. And dressed in like his 60s wear. I fell in love with him as a kid. He'll always be one of my top guys. So I got to go with Roger T. Race Bannon. Great name. Okay. Steve, number 4.
All right. Now, this is the strangest character on my list, really, when you think about it. Because everyone who knows me knows I'm not into teenagers. Young characters, they tend to really annoy me. However, Marv Wolfman's Nova, for me, is utter magnificence. And this is how good this series is for me. When I'm working and I'm pricing, I have never been able to stop and look inside. I have to look every single one. And I look at the panels and I'm laughing at my desk and I'm enjoying it. And suddenly I'm back again from when I was younger and I was putting those issues together. I loved Richard Rider. I loved his family dynamic. You know, you know, the Peter Parker thing annoys the hell out of me after a while. But Richard Rider and his life and the way that he was just bumbling along at first, he had these powers. It just really hit a chord with me. And it's the only time it's ever happened. Okay? Because years later, and I've mentioned this before in a previous podcast, when he appeared in the New Warriors, I was like, who is that? I don't know who that is. So, the Nova 1 through 25, okay, and also Marv Wolfman, the Nova that's in the Fantastic Four, from 204 to 213, and then his appearance in ROM 24, for those of you who know the really hardcore nitty-gritty. That there, Nova, Richard Rider, love that character.
And
Very
if people want to know, go back into our some previous episodes. We do a spotlight on Nova. I think it was issue number 3 or 4, if I'm correct. I could be wrong, but you can check that up and see Steve drool more on that, but you get more background. Okay, Otto, what do you got? Number 4.
All right. So number 4 was tough, but you know, I was very fortunate. Like I can't keep secrets. So when I saw John's list and then I saw Steve's list, I said, oh, this is going to be good. So I thought a little bit outside the box, and this by far is one of my favorite characters. To me, this character is the ultimate leader. Me personally, I respond to good leadership. I always had good coaches in my life. I had good teachers. I had good mentors. And I'll tell you, if this guy in this voice told me to go run through a wall or go beat up the biggest guy because it was the right thing to do, I would look at him and I would say, absolutely, Optimus Prime. I absolutely would. There is no leader that I respond to better in this world, whether it's in the comic books, in the movies, than Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime in that voice.
His
Someday
voice.
I hope to meet him, and I want to hear him say, Autobots, roll out. Okay, so that would be one of the greatest things. So again, you know, Prime is the epitome of leadership. He's the epitome of what I consider a hero, whether it's super or not. But to me, Prime is one of my favorite characters.
I have a question. Did you cry in the movie when he died?
Of course I did, of course.
Hey,
it was awesome.
I was in the cinema in 1987, by the way, with a friend of mine, and we were the oldest people in there. But I remember hearing some sniffling, you know, when he's dying, and I was like, I looked behind me, I was like, it's a cartoon. Are people really crying? But they were very upset.
Yes, it's the true leader. The Matrix has gone, you know, and even in the movies, I mean, even in the live action movies, you know, before Megatron got him once, he took down 4 Decepticons by himself. He tore them up before he got backstabbed.
Even when he first shows up in the movie, he takes them all out. That was awesome.
I'm telling you. So great. Optimus Prime is my number 4, a true leader. And you know, like I said, someday I will hear Peter Cullen say, Autobots roll out. Thank you.
Okay, my number 4 sometimes moves within the top 10. He came all the way to number 1 sometimes, and then he's moved back to number 10. But currently, right now in my head, now I'm going to go back to the Golden Age. That's when I really loved him. Not today's version, not yesterday's version, but in the Golden Age. I absolutely fell head over heels, and his real name, C.C. Beck, Bill Parker, Captain Marvel, Shazam. Now, the real deal when he has the real powers of the Greek gods, I just fell in love with his Golden Age stuff. And it was the charm, you can tell why he became better than Superman, which I always will think that he's better than Superman, because it was the child's, it could capture the imagination of a comic reader of that day, in the Depression, or, you know, like just in the 40s, I mean, it was just a tougher life, but they could just envision. Superman was this alien older guy. Batman was this billionaire guy or millionaire at the time in the 40s. But Billy Batson was this young kid who could say that power. He could say the word Shazam and he becomes this superhero. And it was the ultimate thrill for kids back then. I just absolutely love the costume. I love the look. I just love everything about him. I just love his history and how his powers. Today we have a totally different version of something. His name is Captain Marvel, the Captain Marvel, and there was a reason why he sold more than Superman, right? And when comics sold better than any time in its history, more so than ever anything, and even in the army, they loved Captain Marvel. You know, all those World War II guys, they all loved Captain Marvel more than Superman. So I just fell in love with just the lore and everything. But the character today is so different from what he was back then, and I'll always love the real true Captain Marvel, not Shazam, Captain Marvel. Okay, number 3, Steve, for you.
All right.
Number 3 arrived in my lap because on a previous podcast I have mentioned that I moved away from a certain character because I wasn't happy with it, and I started to move into Marvel's cosmic arena. And once I found this little character that had been quiet under the radar for me, it became fanatical for me to read each issue each month. And I astonish people sometimes when I say I actually enjoyed issues of Quasar more than the Silver Surfer at the time. I really loved Wendell Vaughn. I really loved Mark Gruenwald's deep, complex writing. He had waited 15 years to write Quasar. And literally, I just couldn't stop reading it, and I couldn't stop talking about it. And I thought at the time I was the only one reading it because everyone would look at me like I was some sort of freak, and I would say, "Oh, I really love Quasar right now." And they'd be like, "Well, I'm reading X-Force." I'm like, "Well, okay, buddy." So for me, the whole Quasar experience, from 1989 to 1994, that 1 through 60, Mark Gruenwald, made me a huge Quasar fan, so much so that when Mark Gruenwald passed on, I knew in my heart that I would never be able to read Quasar by someone else. And it got proven correctly. Years later, I would read Quasar, and I would be like, that's not Quasar. Okay. So when we're talking about that specific era, 1989 to 1994, my third most favorite, Quasar.
Steve, I want to tell you a little something.
Very
Mark Gruenwald.
I love the Jack of Hearts cover. I like the Jack of Hearts character.
Jack of Hearts.
I actually had the chance to buy that cover.
Yeah, really.
Hey, Steve, I want to tell you something really quick about Mark Gruenwald. That he was kind of a weird cat. He was a little. He was
out there.
Okay, hold on. This is gonna make you laugh. His wife was at a convention, and I was with Joe Caramagna, my buddy, and I'm all crazy and all this stuff. I remember Peter David like, who the hell is this kid? But me and Caramagna having a good time. But Mark Gruenwald's wife was next to us, and you know what? She said to me, she goes, "Mark would have loved you." She goes, and I said, "Oh, that's awesome." And you know what and her being weird too, do you know what she was actually selling at that convention? His ashes. His ashes. She was having on a stamp, and yeah, she was selling his ashes. Yeah, that's how weird his wife was, and he loved her to death. So she was selling his ashes.
Right.
I didn't buy him. I was like, but Quasar's right there. When I hear about Quasar, I think Mark, and yeah, strange. Okay, Otto, you're number 3, buddy.
All right. So this is my number 3. We're going back to the mutants. I'm going to get some flack from you guys about this. I know I am, but hopefully I can defend it because this was such an iconic issue. and he's changed so much, and he is a Roy Thomas character. But this is one of my favorite. The Canadians, Logan, Wolverine, Weapon X himself, is my third favorite. Okay. And more importantly, the issue that I want to highlight is X-Men 133, where the Hellfire, where the X-Men were taken captured by the Hellfire Club. Wolverine was alone. And this is one of my favorite panels of all time because, and I'll explain this to you. Here Wolverine is with the Hellfire goons. He comes down from the ceiling, surprise. And he, in the next panel, the red panel, you could see him just slicing through another character, jumping over somebody. And I just love Wolverine. I always loved his character. I always thought, I just thought he was really, really cool. He's just the mean, tough guy, the shorter guy like me. I was never, 6'1". I was always, 6 feet tall. I was always kind of shorter than the bigger guys, but I always kind of had a little bit of an attitude. Wasn't afraid to get punched in the face, and that happened quite often. But anyway,
it's quite easy when you're 5'1", Otto.
Yeah, it is right for sure. But the panel, I love this book so much. I went back and counted how many goons he took out in this one issue, and it was 57. So if you go back, there's 57 Hellfire guys that he hacked up with that. And then there was the other panel I was going to show where he was standing there. He was one-on-one with a Hellfire goon, and he's saying, right now you're thinking you got me. You got about 30 seconds to pull your gun out and shoot me, but I'm Wolverine. I'm a little bit faster. And in every panel, you can see the Hellfire guy get more nervous and more nervous. And finally, Wolverine, popped his claws and said, "Hey, bub, what are you going to do?" And then he just dropped his gun and ran. You know what I mean? So,
well, let me get something straight, Otto. I love
Wolverine,
that Wolverine.
One of my favorites.
I loved that Wolverine. It's the Wolverine of today. He's just this unstoppable juggernaut, and he can heal. That was stupid. The way he is, he's been maybe from the 90s on. I can't stand. But I loved the classic Wolverine. And Chris Claremont based him on Dirty Harry and Outlaw Josie Wales.
I never knew that. I never knew that.
Yeah, those are the two Clint Eastwood characters that he based them. Watch Outlaw Josie Wales, one of the best cowboy movies of all time, and you'll see Wolverine. But yeah, I love that Wolverine. Don't get me wrong. Okay, my number 3.
Yep.
This goes without saying. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby character, and Larry Lieber, one of the greats, just majestic, magnificent. He comes and goes in my top 5 and top 10, but he'll always be a favorite. Who better than Journey into Mystery 83, the Mighty Thor? It just, look at that picture right there. That cape, John Buscema, just one of my favorite pictures of him of all time. I used to have these puffy stickers, superhero puffy stickers, and that was from the late 70s, and that was the puffy sticker they had of that Thor, and I fell in love with the cape, everything. And when we talk his issues, I know why I love him. I hate how his power levels always fluctuate, but you write Thor the way he's supposed to be, and that's what he's supposed to be. I love him. I love Thor. I always will. One of the greatest. This is the John Buscema, Jack Kirby stuff is just heaven. Can't go wrong with Mjolnir. Mighty Mystic Mjolnir. All right, getting down to the nitty gritty. Steve, number 2.
Well, it seems sort of appropriate that you laid the carpet down for my
Steve, before you go any further, this is where you guys connect like this. It was only a matter of time as I got these pictures where I said, okay. And then it goes, here it is right here, conjoined right here, separated at birth, you two.
Yeah. Again, for me, I was late to the party when it comes to Thor. It was not an initial thing that I loved. But when I started to read Thor, I was just like, oh my word, I love not only his supporting characters, his rogues gallery, the mythology, the world that he existed in. I loved his demeanor, the way he would talk. And I love the fact that he was slightly above us. He's a god. Doesn't really have our concerns. He knows he can feel our pain, but he's above us. And what I loved was, from someone who came from outside because, as I've said before, I was not a Thor fan. I was always like, oh, okay, who does he think he is? La la la. Once I finally matured and grew up, and I realized just how good this character was, it was one of the first characters that I spent a lot of money on. I was still in the army, and when I came home on leave, suddenly I had switched. I had been buying, a greenish type character for a long time. And suddenly I went to the store owner and said, you need to get Thor every week. I want Thor, all of them. And he was like, what happened? I said, Thor. So, and I would buy so many Thors. So yes, my number 2, Thor. And by the way, my list doesn't change. My list is going to be fixed for 1,000 years. I can't imagine any other character breaking in through my list. I cannot imagine it. Number 2, Thor.
All right, Otto.
Nice. That's a good one. That's a good one. So I love it. All right. So mine is a character who I always loved as a kid. I always loved him on the cartoon, although he didn't show him that much in the 60s cartoons of the Fantastic Four. And to me, he was always the indentured. He did what he had to do to save his race. I know, it was one of Stan Lee's favorite characters. I know Kirby did an amazing job. And then when Joe Sinnott would do the inks, there was no character that I'd love to see surf the skyways and the spaceways than the Silver Surfer, okay? And I have just become enamored with this character to the point where the reason I'm showing this is because this is an official video game. It was an 8-bit video game. I actually have this. There was an album made for it. I have the album that matches this. And of course, I have his first and second. I've got all the trilogy. But to me, Norrin Radd was noble, powerful, the power cosmic. He stood up to Galactus. He, fell in love. He did what he had to do to save his planet. And, he was a true hero, in my opinion. So, anything, you guys probably know a lot more about his lore, but we all know that he was one of Stan's favorite characters, right?
And one of the great origins, like his history was awesome.
Yes. Oh yeah, it was magnificent. And by the way, Otto, if this list was 6 characters, Silver Surfer is my number 6.
So I am glad that you said that because I went through this and I said, I'm the odd man out. I don't sit at the cool kids table. You guys all have different,
Oh, no. By the way, I'm with you on a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just talking infinitesimal little things.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no. You'll never. I'm with you on Surfer.
All right.
Hey, Norrin Radd, great name. And the album was Joe Satriani, Surfing with an Alien. Got them all too. Yeah, awesome. Okay, my number 2, because I think the issues 1 through 38 and the 2 annuals, 1 and 2, even 3, but 1 and 2, I think is the greatest run of comics of all time. I cannot stress, just instilled in my head, one of my first words I ever spoke, grew up in the late 70s. So Electric Company, greatest costume of all time. Spider-Man and Amazing Friends, the 67 cartoon, I have to go with the Amazing Spider-Man. I absolutely loved those first Stan Lee, Steve Ditko issues. I loved how Peter Parker had to do the right thing, despite that being Spider-Man was harder for him. He could have just got rid of that and been a normal kid and things could have been easier for him, but he did it. With great power comes great responsibility. He's such a part of my history. Growing up, like I said, in the late 70s and seeing all those products, all those toys, I just fell in love. I used to run home. Me and my brother would just run home every day from grammar school just to get watch that Spider-Man 67 series. Oh my God. It was on syndication. I think it was on 56. I can't remember, but the Amazing Spider-Man, Stan. Yeah. What can I say? I mean, he's just such an icon. I think the greatest superhero ever created. I think he's beyond Superman. I think he's beyond Batman today. I have to say I'm going to give it to Spider-Man, but not my number 2, the Amazing Spider-Man. I love it. And I love the Ramita stuff too, obviously, but it's just too singed in my head. Too singed. All right. Steve, we're going to go for your number one here.
Well, this is the most bittersweet character that there is for me. There has never been a character that has run so hot and then so cold as this character. And of course, we are talking about this guy right here. My number one is the Hulk, and it touched something in me when I was younger because I know it seems amazing, I was a small little kid. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be powerful. I also wanted to snub my nose at authority. I hated being told what to do all the time. And there was this character called the Hulk who he just wanted to be left alone. He was always going through towns, traveling, and by accident, he would either get involved in something or someone would try and manipulate him. But his sheer raw power would get him out of the trouble, smash up people's plans, go beyond the expectations. There has never been a more fanatical reading for me, specifically issues 194 through about 223. They are my favorite long issue that run forever, and it will never be surpassed. And there's, I'm talking about the runs of Thor and Quasar and Warlock. Those runs, that issue number right there, Len Wein, Sal Buscema, is a special time for me. Again, one of the other titles that if I'm grading at work, and even if I'm on a deadline crunch, I will flip through the panels, I will look, and then I'm gone. I'm inside the panels again, and then I realize 5 minutes have passed, and like, oh my God, I just read 3 pages. Stop it. Okay? I cannot stop reading it after all these years. Yeah. So, number one, again, I haven't liked the Hulk in countless decades now. But when I did like it, it ran so hot that it just burnt through black holes. So I know it's just something that I share with John, is our love for the Hulk, and it will never be surpassed. Number one, Hulk.
Okay, Otto, number one.
Wow. That's hard. But again, I believe that, a hero, as long as you feel that your cause is noble and that what you're doing is right. And, from, my mother was German right off the boat. She escaped Nazi Germany at a very young age. She came to this country, and, persecution, living through that is not something I've ever, I've watched and I've heard firsthand what it's like. And, when mutants are persecuted, somebody's got to stand up for them. What makes humans better than mutants? And there was no other person that thought standing up for mutants was more noble than Eric Lenser himself.
Magneto.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. That is a surprise.
Yes.
And I will tell you, because I have seen, Magneto was right. His people were persecuted just because they were different. Why should they? Even growing up. And this frame right here, this was important for me to show you this, to show everybody this, because to me, this embodies just somebody who has fought the cause. He realizes that, his brotherhood of mutants, who's to say they were evil, they just believed in his cause, although some of them were bad guys. But again, they were not true, evil. But he wanted to be left alone on his planet, right? He turned Asteroid M into his base. He wanted to be left alone. The military wouldn't let him do it. So they flew some astronauts up there, and then here he comes. And at this age, Magneto is so powerful that he can draw energy from anywhere. He wasn't a young mutant learning his powers. Now he could draw this power from the core of the earth, and he just wanted to be left alone, and the government wouldn't let him. So you know what? That's what you get for bothering somebody who just wants to be left alone. He had given up. He'd wanted this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to stay. And if you want to come to my planet, if the mutants want to come and stay with me, you can be free and live your life. And that's fine. So Magneto is probably one of my favorite, and I say hero because I always felt that what he was doing was tried and true. Okay. It wasn't the American way that he was fighting for. He was fighting for the mutant way. So my favorite hero of all time is Magneto.
Now that scene you took there, Otto, that's from X-Men 2, right?
1 or 2. Yeah, it was the Claremont
issue 2. And it's when I was having dinner with Jim Lee and everyone was like waffling and talking. And I said, look, I've never been one of your biggest fans, but when Magneto is in issue 2 and he's like coming down through the atmosphere with his arms across, I was like, wow, that was fan. You know what I mean, Otto?
Yes, with the missiles, all the missiles. Like, you think you're going to blow me up? You're going to take me out?
Even me, who is not a mutant fan, I was like, wow, Jim Lee's finest hour, Claremont doing the best, Magneto. Inspired choice, Otto. Inspired.
Yeah. So I loved it, though. And that's
just issue number 3 was great, too, because doesn't he almost sacrifice? Like, that was pretty heartfelt. Like, what he does to, like, you know, in Claremont wrapping it all up. Those were me. Steve, this is where we connect. I was the same way. I can always feel moments of comic books. Like, even though if I'm not a big fan of them, you get the choke up and you're like, ooh, that's good. You know, like I still, and I'll agree. Great pick, Otto. That was awesome.
Well, look, I mean, that's if all three of us feel the same way about this book and this chapter, it meant something. So it just didn't reach me because, you know, I don't know if I look at that book every 6 months or so, I've got my reader copies, but it's just so powerful. And he believed in his cause. He thought it was right, you know, and he did what he could. And so anyway, and then in the movies just helped it. And, you know, the movies, I thought those 2 castings were great personally, but we won't get into the movies because we're a comic book channel. So, okay.
All right. My number 1, 1977, I was 4 years old. My parents made me go to bed. My brother could stay up because they thought I would be scared. And I snuck out of my room and I wanted to know what they were doing. What was this? I look on the TV set and I saw this mild-mannered guy turn to this big giant green guy, and I was so enthralled. Maybe it was because my parents didn't want me to see it because I would get scared, but there was something about that, and I was able to watch the whole thing. And then when I went back to bed, the world fell in love with this character, and I was just the right age to get it all in. So the comics didn't come till a little later. But as I started getting into the comics, I got into a port. I was like, it's kind of different. You know, he's not like on the cartoons and all that. So then I started going back. And then I started seeing the character for what he is. Because when I was on the shelves, he was mindless. He still had Banner's brain. Then I started going back. This is the character. Now, Steve, going through the history of this character, 1 through 6, and then you go from the, those Tales to Astonish 59 all the way up, goes actually to 272. That was the last time the character we know and fell in love with, and he became something different after that, but issue 272 is the last time we see this. But you say that 194 and go straight, I go back a little further. Oh my God, I love that Roy Thomas stuff. I love that Jerry Conway. Like, I love all. There's something about him, the madder he gets, the stronger he gets, and he wanted to be left alone, but those villains attacked him. Why? Because they wanted his power. They wanted to somehow take his power to rule the world, and all the Hulk wanted to be was left alone. This character will be forever singed in my brain. And when I die, literally when you start thinking of the things that you got to think about before you're crossing over to the other side, the Hulk will be one of those things because he is so, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't love the Hulk. I am the Hulk. Can I say it any more than that? Like, he's such a part of me that I cannot fathom like anything else. And I just love the Hulk smash. And I wish we could get him. We don't get him in the movies. I don't like any of these incarnations. I don't like any of this other stuff. 272 and back, I recommend you. Anybody can read those issues. Anyone. Oh my God, the Bill Mantlo stuff. Oh my gosh, it's just so magnificent. And the stories lived up to the what was in my head when I started going back. Oh my God, I go and I loved his rogues gallery too. Like I did like the Abomination, I did like the Juggernaut,
Sure.
I like the heavy hitters, and that's why I like Thor. But there was something about the Hulk that was so good. It became part of me. I want to get like gamma rays to like I used to open up the microwave and put my hand in it. I didn't know microwaves from gamma rays. I was so young. I didn't care. I just wanted something to turn me green. So Steve, I agree with you, and this is why this is basically what the Steve and Cimino podcast is based on, our love for that character. And Roy was the first person I think that used to call him J Jaws. I don't know if it was Stan, but Roy said he used to love to call him J Jaws, and he thinks he might have been the first one to call him that. I loved his nickname. I loved it all. I don't know. The Hulk, there ain't nothing bad. It just can't be. There just can't be anything over that horizon because everything revolves around the Hulk for me. I will sometimes go when I used to work for the school and I would go outside and I look at the tree. I remember like at camp and I would see the trees and I would look in the trees and the beautiful sun and during the summer and the fall and I would see the green leaves. I would see Hulk faces everywhere. That's me. I see Hulk everywhere. So Steve, I love you. Otto, I loved your pick, but my God, the Hulk. All right. I guess we should go over really quick before we end this a little summary of over this. Obviously, Steve, you said that the Silver Surfer couldn't make the list. So Otto, what is a character that you thought you could put on this list that didn't make the list?
Well, I will say this, and I had him there, but I took it off because he's more of a Disney character than he is. I don't know if there was ever any comic books of Mr. Incredible. There's not a character that I listen, I haven't been a teenager in many years. I haven't been in my 20s in many years. All the memories I have is being a dad for the past 17 years, raising 3 kids, right? So seeing The Incredibles as a movie and seeing, a man who was, maybe that was me when I was a bouncer in a nightclub, and protecting people and part-time being a bodyguard, those kind of things. But then getting a family and gaining some weight and then wanting to get back into it and then saving the world. But then you got to go home and you got to fix the kids and the kids are fighting, but yeah, you just saved a burning building. So there's no other characters that I connect with more than Mr. Incredible, I think, at this point in my life. And it has been like that for the past 15 years. The reason I didn't put him on it because he wasn't in a comic book. But if I could do like an addendum or an appendage to this, it would be.
He actually did. They did reprint. He had 2 miniseries. Also, he does appear in comics. So
he does. So I'll have to dig for them.
Yeah, I think it's IDW.
All right, I'll have to look for them. Because I didn't know that, But again, he would be a superhero that I connect with on a very personal dad level because you're trying to work out, but you got you're thinking of the kids here and you're doing this and
it's funny you say that, Otto. But many people, when that film came out, they wanted me to go to Halloween as Mr. Incredible.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're like, Steve, you're Mr. Incredible. And I was like,
right.
Oh, wait a minute, his build's all wrong. I don't want to be a Mr. Incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because in 2017, one of the greatest memories I have is my family when we have a family of 5. We dressed up as the Incredibles. And my oldest was Dash, he was 12, and my youngest was Jack, but he was about 6, and my daughter was Violet, and I made the costumes myself. That's for a whole other story, but it's one of the greatest pictures I have, and I'll take that picture with me ever. So again, Mr. Incredible would be there, Steve. Thank you, or John, thank you for asking.
And really quick for me, I have to go with the ever blue-eyed thing, the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. I love the thing, especially the Jack Kirby Stan Lee stuff. I always had my heart was for the thing, even and when he fought the Hulk and how it happened. And just another one that's kind of squished into is Prince Namor, the Submariner. He's just another character that's always in there. So Steve, really quick, what do you got? Another character? We know the Silver Surfer, but is there another character that you could have said that could have made the list?
It's funny. This is a real surprise. But this is a character that comes from left field, way out there. You would never expect it. Captain America.
Really?
thought that I would hate Captain America, because when I was younger, I was like, he's always preaching, you know, la la la, the American way. But the way the character has been molded, you know, the character of Steve Rogers, it's such a rich history. You know, it's very relatable because I'm also a history buff. And he has a fantastic rogues gallery. Oh my God. You know, the Red Skull and, you know, on him Zola and, you know, the countless other characters.
That's a great point.
And it was like one of the third titles that I decided to put together was the Captain Americas. And I kept reading and reading. Of course, you got that great Steve Englehart and Sal Buscema era, which is wow. And then I got basically 8 years, I think, of Mark Gruenwald. And I loved that stuff. I loved it. And I began to really love Steve Rogers and Captain America, you know. And hence, you know, when I'm going down the gym, 9 times out of 10, I'm dressed as Captain America. You know, people are always surprised when I start speaking because they're like, what? Why are you wearing Captain Britain? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's got to be Steve Rogers. It's got to be Captain America. So that's probably a surprise for a lot of people, but he would have probably been about number 7.
Wow. Yeah. And really quick about Captain America, I love too, is he's this normal guy. Sure, he's enhanced, but he has the inspiration. He's the most dangerous Avenger because he inspires all the other guys. And it's like you have this god that will follow him into battle and will let him lead because that's how much respect he has for him. The Submariner, the same way, the king of the 7 seas.
I'm surprised he wasn't on that top 5, Steve. I was taken back when I saw it. I thought I would definitely see Imperious Rex on there for sure.
Well, you know, I have to admit, I did find some of the stuff that Submariner does quite annoying. You know, he was just too hot-headed for me. You know, one minute he would be okay, the next minute I'm attacking Earth. You know, the surface world. You know, I'm gonna go and get my revenge. You know, and I'm like, calm down, buddy.
That's his imbalance. His imbalance.
Yeah, go and speak with Doctor Strange and relax. You're a defender. You've saved Earth 100 times. You know, and
he definitely was in balance for sure.
I mean,
yeah, he was. He was
right off kilter. You know, and I always remember when I was younger, and John's gonna laugh at this. I was horrified that time that he knocked the Hulk out in issue 118 of Hulk.
Okay,
and I was like, what? You know, he knocked him out of the sea so hard that he made him turn back to Banner on the beach. I know John knows that issue very well.
Yeah.
And as a youngster, I was like, God, I hate this Namor guy. So
I know. I felt the same way.
You know, so yeah, for me, I can take Thor in his regal way, the way he holds himself, but Namor was just a little bit too much for me.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And just so anybody out there, when Bill Everett did Namor, just understand that it was actually Roman backwards. That's how he got it. It was Roman, and then he switched it around and he called it Namor, which was cool. Okay, so everybody, that's our top 5 and a few others. I hope we got some surprises. Maybe some didn't surprise people. Maybe they did. Write to us. Tell us your top 5, and if you agree, disagree, what you like. Maybe you hate us more now because you know our top 5, or maybe you love us more. But,
yes, well, maybe they'd be disappointed that we didn't have Squirrel Girl, Deadpool, you know, or Gwenpool.
Oh,
jeez.
We'll save that for another show. The bottom 5. The bottom 5. So, Steve, get us out of here. Where do we go?
You know what? We go boom.